Sports are athletic activities requiring skill or physical prowess.
Many sports have been invented and played over the decades.
But what are the fads and trends in sports? Let's talk about the fads and trends in sports starting way back in the 1950s.
Sports fads in 1950s. Golf. The 1950s were another period without a clear dominating figure in men's golf. Horse racing. Horse racing is the sport of running speed. It is one of the most ancient of all sports, as its basic premise to identify which of two or more horses is the fastest over a set course or distance has been unchanged since at least classical antiquity. Football. Soccer is better known to the rest of the world as football. It's one of the oldest sports in history. Throughout the 1950s, football remained America's national pastime, and New York was America's premier football town. Sport trends in 1950s. Basketball. By the 1950s, basketball had become a major college sport, thus paving the way for growth. The 1950 to 51 NBA season was the fifth season of the National Basketball Association. Boxing. The 1950s was a magical time in boxing history, in large part because of the rise of television. Rocky Marciano and Floyd Patterson were the boxing superstars of the 1950s. Badminton. Badminton was introduced in Singapore in the early 19th century and reached the height of its success in the 1950s. Sport fads in 1960s. Harness racing is a form of horse racing in which the horse race at a specific gait. They usually pull a two-wheeled cart called a sulky or spider occupied by a driver. Rugby league football, commonly known as just rugby league or simply league, one of the two extant codes of rugby football. It originated in Northern England in 1895 as the result of a split from the Rugby Football Union over the issue of payments to the players. Sport trends in 1960s. Field hockey. Game of field hockey was developed in the British Isles. The modern game was started in England in the mid-1800s, and the first formal field hockey club, the Blackheath Football and the Hockey Club, was formed in 1861.
Sports fads in 1970s. Baseball. Money influenced professional sports more than anything else in the 1970s. Money-making television contracts in baseball led to rule modifications and a season extending. American football. By the 1970s, televised college football had become a larger source of income for the NCAA. Sports trends in 1970s. Boxing. During the 1970s, boxing was characterized by dominating champions and history-making rivalries. Basketball. Although there were many minor changes in 1970, three significant ones rocked the league's foundation: the adoption of the slam dunk and the three-point shot, wage escalation, and the introduction of free agency. Sports fads in 1980s. Tetherball. In 1980s, a ball named tetherball is like a volleyball and is tied to a 10-foot vertical pole by a slender rope. Sony Sports Walkman. Sony was already the biggest name in handheld electronics in the 80s, but they really upped the bright yellow way with their launch of sports Walkmans. Kush balls. Today, kush balls are basically novelty items that exist solely to distract desk jockeys and contribute to their cubicle clutter. But back in their glory days, they were a must-have toy that kind of became a sport unto itself. Kush balls were a surprisingly fun substitute for baseballs, yo-yos, and traditional badminton sets during 1980s. Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube became an instant sensation, enjoying popularity among the young and old in many countries. The fad was so inescapable, in fact, that a popular collectible during the 1981 wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana was a Rubik's Cube emblazoned with the royal couple's image. Sports trends in 1980s. Aerobics. The term 80s aerobics refers to classes that are based on those popular in the 1980s. The moves are based on the original classes, and participants are encouraged to wear workout clothes similar to those worn at the time while performing to the sounds of era-appropriate music. Wrestling. Although it has made a comeback in recent years, nothing even compares with the classic years of the WWF and the NWA. The 1980s professional wrestling was a surge in the popularity of professional wrestling in the United States and elsewhere throughout the 1980s. Sports fads in 2000s up to present. Synthetic basketball. The NBA introduced a new basketball for the 2006 up to 2007 season. The new version used microfiber, composite, or synthetic materials as opposed to the traditional leather. Unfortunately, player feedback was decidedly terrible. The NBA announced a move back to the leather balls in December 2006.
There are some sports from this era that are still popular today. One of the most popular sports is basketball, and it includes tennis, golf, and various aquatic sports such as diving and windsurfing, which are widely practiced. Trampolining has become an Olympic sport during the 2000s. Trampolining made its Olympic debut at the 2000 Olympic Games with two sessions, the individual women's and the individual men's competitions. World Wrestling in 2001. Wrestling nowadays is not that popular, but thousands of viewers tune into Raw and SmackDown every week. Rugby League in the year 2003. The 2003 season was widely regarded as the most successful since the beginning of the National Rugby League in 1998.
Then horse racing was still popular way back in 2006. In addition, chess became an international sport in 2000 when it was recognized by the International Olympic Committee and it was inducted into the Asian Games in 2006. Newly introduced sports to us is ice hockey in 2008. With its speed and its frequent physical contact, ice hockey has become one of the most popular of international sports. Arnis also became a sport during 2009. It was developed by the indigenous populations of the Philippines who used an assorted range of weaponry for combat and self-defense.
Then, football, 2010. Newly added sports. The popularity of college football grew as it became the dominant version of the sports in the United States for the first half of the 20th century. Jiu-Jitsu, 2015. That is full of bravado and masculinity and strength, but also trust and compassion. Cricket. Cricket is undoubtedly among the most popular sports in the world. It has continued to endear too many fans and is currently the second most popular sport after football. Sport climbing. The Professional World Cup circuit has been steadily gaining in popularity over these past 2 decades, and climbing was confirmed as a new Olympic sport in year 2016. Surfing. Surfing is one of the oldest sports on Earth. On the 12th century, Polynesians brought surfing to Hawaii and went viral. Surfing is still practiced nowadays and is surprisingly still maintained its popularity. Softball. Today, softball is one of the most popular sports, and an estimated 40 million Americans engage in at least one softball game each year. Karate. Karate evolved in East Asia over a period of centuries, becoming systematized in Okinawa in 17th century, probably by people forbidden to carry weapons. Bobsled, women's monobob. Bobsledding originated in Switzerland in the 1890s and was included in the first Olympic Winter Games in 1924. And for years, it was a popular recreational sport, particularly for the wealthy. Short track speed skating. The origin of short track speed skating can be tracked back to 1905, and until now, short track speed skating is still on its road to rise. With the sport gaining steam on the continent, short track speed skating sport that tests the speed, technical skating ability, and aggressiveness of its competitors. Ski jumping. Until up to these days, ski jumping is still popular, although ski jumping is hard. The fun fact about ski jumping is that by turning their skis and bodies into what is essentially a wing, ski jumpers are able to fight gravity. Then, esports were introduced, such as LOL, or also known as League of Legends. LOL became a sport in the year 2009, with many gamers out there being competitive. League of Legends is no joke.
He got two already. Bang is hiding. He's coming. Bang looking to come in. Here comes your initiation. There is oh my God! Banger shockwave will find them all, and SKT with a hell of a response will take down.
The SKT reign continues. They win their third world championship.
Dota 2 became an esport during the year of 2011. It is a strategy game with a large hero pool, each having different unique ability which you need to master.
Together, PPD, here comes the Ice Blast, ready for the dive! In from Universe, it's a disaster! CDEC, they're gonna get wiped from the face of the earth apart from aggressive.
Mobile Legends, the wildly popular mobile game, is the first title to be confirmed for the esports event of the 2019 SEA Games.
Esports has also reached influences outside the multiplayer online battle arena genre or MOBA, like first-person shooter games with the rise of Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
Here he comes once again. The first base is a Dren. He's going to hit the ground there as Cold. Oh, what? A jumping double from Cold! What is going on right now? How does he do this?
In the Overwatch League,
And XQC might just get this done himself. There's nothing Akina can do. He can't get to the payload. He's being pushed away. And that is going to be that second checkpoint coming up here for Canada.
there are also many more games of varying genres with their own esports scene, like Tekken and Rocket League, just to name a few.
All right, the follow-up here. Oh, nice step out of there.
Nice, down full.
All that work,
Right.
all that work
All
got
that
swept
spin.
away.
You see Mount get by everybody off the kickoff, and you're like, sweet, we're going to score, so you might let off the gas a little bit. Flame's got a
open.
wide open.
He's
What's
gonna
up
do
for
it.
reset into the left-hand side. Flame with a hat trick in game 2.
I love it, with style too. He didn't even need to do this. He could have just taken the shot right here. He goes under it, gets the flip reset. It's beautiful.
Many sports have failed to maintain their movement and popularity. On the other hand, there are still sports that remain and people put them into practice.
The more time passes by, the more sports are yet to be introduced because of the people's imaginations when it comes to sports.
So far, so good for sports, fads, and trends from the 1950s up to the present.